I want to start today by just checking your pulse. Not literally, but I want you to picture a scenario that I think is pretty much universally painful.
Okay, ready.
So, you send a text message. It could be to a romantic interest, a friend, maybe even just a colleague about a project.
Hmm.
You hit send, you see the little delivered notification,
Yeah.
and maybe, if you're really unlucky, you see the read receipt. And then
Avoid.
the absolute void. 10 minutes go by, then an hour, then 3. And suddenly, your brain isn't just waiting for a reply anymore. It is writing a full-blown screenplay.
A tragedy, usually.
A total tragedy.
What-
And
yeah.
in this screenplay, you haven't just been ignored, you've been rejected, you offended them, you're losing the relationship, and you're probably going to die alone.
It creates this incredible cascade, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It shifts from, maybe they're in a meeting to, I am fundamentally unlovable in record time.
Right. It's the spiral. One message left on read becomes a narrative of total failure. Or, you make a typo in an email at work, and by the drive home, you've convinced yourself you're getting fired on Monday morning.
It's exhausting.
Right.
And I think the key word you used there is narrative. We aren't just observing reality, we are spinning a story about it that actively hurts us.
Exactly. And that is exactly what we are unpacking today on the deep dive. We aren't just here to vent about anxiety or share war stories. We are looking for an exit ramp.
We really are.
So today's source material is the book How to Stop Overthinking by James Path, published by Bradbury Bestsellers. And I have to be honest, when I first picked this up, I was pretty skeptical.
Only? How come?
Well, I've read a lot of self-help on anxiety, and usually it boils down to just breathe or think positive thoughts, which honestly just makes me want to throw the book across the room.
Yeah, it's frustrating because it completely dismisses the complexity of the problem.
Right.
But what I appreciate about James Path's work is that he approaches this mechanically. He treats overthinking not as a character flaw, but as a faulty engine part.
Yes, exactly. And before we get to the fix, I think we have to really define the problem because, I consider myself a thinker. I like analyzing things.
Right.
So at what point does deep thinking become overthinking? Like, where's the actual line?
It's a crucial distinction. The source material makes it very clear that thinking is helpful. Critical thinking, planning, reflecting those are all productive.
Because they actually take you somewhere.
Exactly. They move you from point A to point B. Overthinking, on the other hand, is repetitive and unproductive. It's just a loop.
So if I'm thinking about a problem and coming up with a solution, that's thinking.
Yes.
But if I'm thinking about a problem and just feeling worse and worse without moving an inch, that's overthinking.
Precisely. It drains energy, it increases anxiety, and it keeps you completely frozen.
Wow.
It's basically the difference between running a race and running on a hamster wheel. You're sweating, you're tired, your heart is pounding, but you haven't actually gone anywhere.
Okay, I relate to the hamster wheel way too much, but here's the first big hurdle I ran into with the book, and I want to challenge you on this.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because it makes a pretty bold claim early on. It talks about identity, and I feel like for a lot of us, overthinker is a label we wear. It feels like a personality type. I'm an introvert, I'm a Virgo, I'm an overthinker.
We do treat it like a static trait, don't we? Like eye color or height. You just say, well, I'm a worrier. That's just how I'm wired.
Right. So when the book says overthinking is not a personality trait, I really struggled with that. Because if I've been doing this for 20 years, it sure feels like my personality. How does Path back that up?
Well, he leans into the concept of neuroplasticity, though he explains it very simply. He argues that overthinking is a mental habit. It is a learned pattern. Yeah. Think about it like this. If you bite your fingernails every time you're nervous, eventually you don't even decide to do it anymore. Your hand just goes to your mouth automatically.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But you wouldn't say, I am a fingernail biter in the sense that it's your soul's destiny, right? You'd say, I have a habit I want to break.
Okay, so the brain has just practiced this worry loop so many times that it's become the path of least resistance.
Exactly. Every single time you indulge in the spiral, you are strengthening that neural pathway. You're basically widening the highway to anxiety.
Wow.
So when a trigger happens, like that unanswered text message, your brain doesn't take the quiet dirt road of calm reflection. It zooms straight down the superhighway of panic, because that's the road you've built.
That is simultaneously terrifying and really empowering.
How so?
Terrifying because I've apparently built a superhighway to hell in my own brain, but empowering because, roads can be closed. We can build new ones.
Yes. It shifts you from victimhood to agency. If it's your DNA, you're stuck. You can't change it. But if it's a habit, you can retrain it. Now, it takes work. It's not a magic pill, but it is absolutely possible.
Okay, let's talk about the why, because habits usually serve some kind of function. We don't just do things for absolutely no reason. If overthinking makes us miserable, if it paralyzes us, what is the payoff? Why is my brain so addicted to this?
Safety. Or, well, more accurately, the illusion of safety. Jane's path suggests the root cause of all overthinking is a profound desire for control.
Control. See, it feels like the exact opposite. When I'm spiraling, I feel completely out of control.
You feel out of control emotionally, yes, but the act of worrying is an attempt to regain control over an uncertain future.
Oh, I see.
Think about the internal courtroom the book describes. You're constantly analyzing the past to make sure you didn't mess up, or you're running simulations of the future to prevent a disaster. We believe, falsely, that if we just think about it hard enough, we can eliminate risk.
Oh man, I do this constantly. I'll think, if I worry enough about this presentation, I won't bomb it. It almost feels responsible. Like if I stopped worrying, I'd be negligent.
And that is the trap. We conflate worrying with preparing, but they are not the same thing at all.
What's the difference?
Preparation is saying, I will rehearse my slides 3 times. Worrying is saying, what if they hate me? What if the projector breaks? What if I forget my pants?
Right.
One prepares you for the event, the other just drains the exact energy you need to actually perform.
So we are essentially trying to control the uncontrollable.
Precisely. And here is the core irony the source highlights. The more we analyze to find certainty, the more confusion we actually create.
Because there is no certainty.
Right. You're digging for clarity, but you're really just kicking up dirt. You end up arguing with yourself. You're the prosecutor and the defense attorney just going round and round in your head, and there is never a verdict.
Just a hung jury and a massive headache.
Exactly. So we've established that it's a habit, and we know it's driven by this false need for control. Now we need to get into the mechanics of actually stopping it. And this is where I think a lot of people get stuck. Because the standard advice out there is usually just stop thinking about it.
Which has to be the worst advice in human history. It's literally like saying, don't think of a white elephant.
And immediately, a white elephant is the only thing in the room. You can't unthink a thought.
So if we can't suppress the thoughts and we can't outthink the thoughts, what is the third option?
The third option is awareness, or what the book calls creating space. The core principle here is this. You cannot calm a mind you are fighting with.
Okay, let's unpack that. You cannot calm a mind you are fighting with, because my first instinct is always to fight. I want to grab those anxious thoughts and just strangle them.
Which naturally only adds more tension to your system. The alternative path offers is to step back and become the observer of the thought, rather than a participant in it.
That sounds a little abstract to me. Can we make that concrete? What does observing actually look like on a random Tuesday afternoon when I'm freaking out?
Sure. Let's go back to the text message scenario. You send the text, you get no reply. The thought comes up, they hate me.
Okay.
Option A is to engage with it. Oh my God, they do hate me. Why do they hate me? Was it that joke I told? Now you are in the river, getting swept away by the current.
Okay, yes. That is my default mode. What is option B?
Option B is the observer. You notice the thought comes up. You mentally step back and say to yourself, I am noticing that I'm having the thought that they hate me.
Does that actually work? Because it sounds like semantic gymnastics. Does adding I am noticing actually change anything?
It changes everything. It creates a literal gap between you and the thought. It labels the thought as just an event passing through your mind rather than a definitive fact about reality.
Oh, wow.
It's the difference between being in the movie and sitting in the audience watching the movie. When you're in the audience, you can say, wow, that character is really stressed out. But you don't have to be them.
So it's about breaking that emotional tether. It's like saying, oh, look, there goes the I'm a failure story again. Track 3 on the greatest hits album.
Exactly. You acknowledge it without buying into it. You don't fight it.
Yeah.
You just let it be there without, serving it tea. And once you have that space, once you aren't actively drowning, you can finally use logic. Which leads directly to my absolute favorite tool from the book.
This is the one that addresses the catastrophizing aspect, right?
Yes. Possibility versus probability.
Yeah.
This is the heavy hitter.
This was the section where I actually had to put the book down and just stare at the wall for a minute because it hit way too close to home. I am an absolute gold medalist in the sport of possible scenarios.
Most overthinkers are. Our brains are incredibly creative at generating worst-case scenarios. What if I lose my job? What if this headache is actually a rare tropical disease? What if the economy completely collapses tomorrow?
Right. And the real problem is you can't logically say those things are impossible.
Right. And that is exactly how the anxiety hooks you. It says, yeah, but it could happen. And technically, yes, it is possible that your boss called you into the office to fire you on the spot. It is a non-zero chance.
So how do we fight that? Because if the chance is non-zero, my brain just locks onto it and won't let go.
You have to pivot from possibility to probability. You basically force your brain to look at the actual data.
Okay, how so?
Let's stick with the boss called the meeting example. The spiral says, it's possible I'm getting fired. The tool asks, okay, but what is probable? And you look at the evidence. Have you received any warnings? No. Are you hitting your targets? Yes.
Yeah.
Is the company downsizing? No.
Right.
So while it is theoretically possible you're getting fired, is it probable?
Probably not. It's infinitely more likely they just want to ask about a file or, schedule a lunch.
Exactly. But I do want to play devil's advocate here for a second, because I know what you listening might be thinking. What if the probability is high?
Yeah, that is a really fair point. What if I actually did mess up a huge project yesterday? What if the odds really are 50-50? Does the tool just break them?
No, it actually becomes even more important. Because if the probability of a bad outcome is real, then worrying is still the wrong tool. Planning is the right tool.
Oh, that's a great distinction.
Right. If it is probable you're getting fired, sitting at your desk, hyperventilating helps absolutely nothing. Updating your resume, saving some money, or preparing your defense, that helps. The probability check moves you out of the realm of vague terror and into the realm of actionable reality.
I see. So if it's unlikely, I can just let it go. If it's likely, I can make a plan. But in neither scenario is looping in a panic the correct answer.
Bingo. It's all about assessing the threat level accurately so you can respond appropriately, rather than treating every vague uncertainty like there's a tiger in the bushes.
It's basically a risk assessment for your own emotions. But this takes practice, right? I mean, this isn't something you hear once and you're instantly cured.
Oh, absolutely not. Path emphasizes that this is a mental workout. You have to actively catch yourself. You'll feel yourself spiraling, and you have to manually apply the brakes and ask possibility or probability. You might have to do that 50 times a day at first.
It's just like doing reps at the gym. The first time you try to lift the weight, it's incredibly heavy.
But eventually, your brain starts to do it automatically. You build a new habit, a habit of clarity instead of a habit of panic.
I want to touch on the end game here for a second, because I think there's a huge misconception about what a cured overthinker actually looks like. I think we imagine this Zen monk on a mountaintop, mind completely empty, just floating in a state of eternal bliss.
And that exact expectation sets people up for failure. If you think the goal is having zero negative thoughts, you're going to be severely disappointed. You have a human brain. It is designed to generate thoughts, and some of them will definitely be scary. That's its actual job, to look out for threats.
So if we aren't aiming for total silence, what are we aiming for?
We are aiming for management. The book describes the goal not as an empty mind, but as a managed focus. Think of it like being the bouncer at a club.
Okay, I like this. I'm the bouncer.
You are the bouncer of your own attention. You cannot stop people, meaning thoughts, from lining up on the sidewalk outside. You can't control who shows up, but you hold the velvet rope. You get to decide who comes inside and buys a drink.
I love that.
So the I'm going to fail thought shows up. You check its ID. You see it's based on low probability and pure fear. You just say, not tonight, buddy. And you keep it outside.
And the I need to prepare for tomorrow's meeting thought shows up.
You say, come on in, let's get to work.
That is such a helpful visual because it stops me from getting angry that the negative thoughts even exist in the first place. The bouncer doesn't scream at the people in line, he just does his job.
Right, it's simply attention management. When you master that, you get the calmer, clearer mindset the book promises. And most importantly, you reclaim your time. That is the real tragedy of overthinking. It steals hours, days, sometimes weeks of your life that you spent living in a nightmare that never actually happened.
It steals the present moment entirely because you're too busy living in a scary future.
Exactly.
So let's try to summarize the roadmap we've covered today because we've hit some really big concepts. First is the identity shift. Stop saying, I am an overthinker. You are a person with a mental habit of overthinking, and habits can be broken.
Second is the illusion of control. You have to recognize that worrying is not working. It's not preparation, it's just a hamster wheel. You cannot control the future by suffering in the present.
Third is awareness. When the spiral starts, don't fight it. Step back. Be the observer. I am noticing a thought. You have to create that space.
And fourth is the reality check. Possibility versus probability. When the catastrophe movie starts playing in your head, look at the data. Is this likely? If not, dismiss it. If so, plan for it.
And finally, be the bouncer. Your goal isn't total silence. It's choosing which thoughts actually get your energy.
That is the toolkit right there. And I really want to emphasize that while we've covered the what and the why today, the book How to Stop Overthinking is packed with the actual how. It has specific exercises, journaling prompts, and daily practices that we just can't completely replicate here on a deep dive. If you are serious about retraining your brain, you really need the manual, so definitely check out the book by James Path.
Absolutely. It's one thing to understand the theory, but it's another thing to actually do the push-ups. Now, before we let you go, we always like to leave you with a final thought, something to really marinate on. We talked a lot about control today and how we overthink because we desperately want to feel safe. We think knowing everything creates safety.
It raises a really interesting paradox, doesn't it? We think safety comes from predicting the future. But the future is inherently unpredictable. So is it possible that true safety, true peace of mind, doesn't come from knowing what will happen?
Where does it come from then?
Maybe it comes from trusting your ability to handle whatever happens. It's the shift from, I need to make sure nothing bad happens, to, I trust myself to handle it if it does.
That is a huge shift. Trusting yourself rather than trusting your master plan.
That's where the freedom is.
I think I'm going to need to just sit with that one for a while. Be the bouncer, trust yourself. Thank you all so much for listening to this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
Take care.